Karina Perino, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and Kennedy. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The 5.
We are getting close to health care. We'll come up in the early to mid part of next year. We're going to have a vote. I think we already have the votes. We feel confident we have the votes. I would like very much to see it be done this year. So we won't go a step further. If we get it done, that's a great achievement. But don't forget, it took years for the Reagan administration to get taxes done. I've been here for 9 months, a little more than 9 months. We need a wall in this country. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. We have to have a wall.
It was a display only President Trump could put on. This afternoon, the president holding an impromptu press conference with Mitch McConnell, taking about 40 questions in just over 30 minutes. As you saw there, Mr. Trump insisting he will get through his agenda. He and the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, spoke to reporters in the Rose Garden after their White House meeting, the two insisting there is no bad blood following some contentious moments between them after the GOP failed to pass an Obamacare repeal.
Our relationship with this gentleman is outstanding, has been outstanding. We are working very hard to get the tax cuts. We will continue to work hard to get the health care completed. I'm going to be surprising some people with an economic development bill later on, but I haven't even told Mitch because I want to focus on tax cuts and some other things right now.
We have the same agenda. We've been friends and acquaintances for a long time. We talk frequently. We don't give you a readout every time we have a conversation, but frequently we talk on the weekends about the issues that are before us. Contrary to what some of you may have reported, we're together totally on this agenda to move America forward.
All right, Jesse, that was some very serious public display of affection between the president and the majority leader, saying that they actually do get along and that they have an agenda and that maybe they're going to praise in public and criticize in public and private.
Well, they're best friends for now until McConnell blows it, then Trump's going to set him on fire. But I think today, symbolically, that was a real show of force for the Democrats. They showed that they are together and united, and they have
Republicans.
To the Democrats.
Oh, to the Democrats.
Yeah, they're showing the Democrats they are united, they are strong, they have the majority, and they're going to keep the majority. This is also a rallying cry for the Republicans. They need to get their in gear or else they're going to be toast in the midterms, and also really shows the media totally under control. He's got this. You know, you can tell Trump's in mid-season form here by how crisp the hand gestures are. When they're crisp and they're energetic and he takes lots of questions, you know he's feeling good about himself. I think he played all the hits. He bragged about the Electoral College victory. He dared Hillary to run again. He bashed President Obama. He took credit for the great stock market. The only thing we didn't get was a nickname for McConnell. I would have liked to have seen that. Maybe Mighty Mitch, Eminem, some suggestions. But I think he's a closer, the president. He's a fourth quarter guy. It's crunch time. He knows it. The year's almost out. He's all in on tax reform. He's going to punt DACA probably, may even punt the border wall funding, is going to punt Obamacare, but he must get tax reform done or it's over.
Juan, unlike some White House press briefings where the same question is asked over and over again to try to drill down, there wasn't necessarily an order to this press conference. I kind of liked it for how chaotic it seemed on the press's side, not on the president's side. But the press, they were so hungry to ask questions. And he covered a whole range of topics from judges. He says he's going to have an economic development plan that he announces soon. He said they have the votes right now for health care reform, but they're going to wait a little while. He talked about Cuba. He talked about the tax reform piece, as Jesse mentioned, but also was able to talk about the fact that he will have an opiate announcement. We've been waiting on the national emergency for opiate addiction. And he says these things take time, so everybody has been asking where my paperwork is, and just so you understand, it takes a little bit of time for the government to do that. So I don't know really what mid-season fighting form is, but I think I get the gist.
Right there.
I think I get the gist. What did you think?
Well, I think this is this reminds me what happened on Friday when the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, was sent out. And now we have Mitch McConnell sent out. A lot of this is about what's going on behind the scenes, which is there's a civil war raging. I mean, Steve Bannon, the president's former top political advisor, said he's got a war on the GOP establishment. What does he mean by that? He's talking about Congress. He's saying that the Congress is made up of establishment Republicans who are not backing this president, and he wants their support. And therefore, Bannon is going about trying to throw out Republicans that he considers insufficiently Trump backers.
Right.
Now, you got that, plus you've got the president at war with a leading member of the Senate, Bob Corker, and that hasn't stopped. That just went on over the weekend, Dana. So you have the president saying, oh, you know, don't pay any attention to these people. It's not true. What Bob Corker says is crazy. And then not one member of the Senate, including Mitch McConnell, say anything different. I mean,
and that said, though, Kimberly, Bob Corker is actually working with Tom Cotton on the president's Iran deal that they need to get done. So perhaps there's a lot of the, I don't know, the relationship intrigue is masking some actual work that's happening behind the scenes. I'm not positive about that, but
yeah, but I think that's a significant point to make when you see someone like Tom Cotton, who's widely respected in the area of foreign policy, has been a very strong vocal opponent against Iran and the deal, saying that wasn't an appropriate, wasn't a good deal for the United States. So Corker's working together with him. That's what you want to see, not just the tweet storm, but you want to see actually.
But, and Cotton is working with Corker to make that happen.
That's what I'm saying. So I think that's very good. So that to me is more indicative of what's going on than perhaps some tweets here and there. And then I think, this is a unique opportunity to kind of like reset the relationship with McConnell and the president, but nothing will make it more believable than some wins on the board. And they do need to get, tax cuts in. They do need to have a budget that fully funds the military, because we're not in the best position since the Obama years in terms of fully funding and being combat ready. All of these things are important, and the Republicans need to pick up 3 to 4 seats in the Senate so that they can actually continue to get legislation through, so that the president won't have this problem every time getting through his agenda, because it's been a little bit of a slow start, get the training wheels off, and now they've got to push it through.
Before we go to talk more about the whole Bannon movement, I do want to just capitalize on this, because Kennedy, I know you've been covering this on your show as well. This is Senator Graham and talking about the Republicans actually needing to get tax reform done.
Mitch McConnell's not our problem. Our problem is that we promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, and we failed. We promised to cut taxes, and we've yet to do it. If we're successful, Mitch McConnell's fine. If we're not, we're all in trouble. We lose our majority, and I think President Trump will not get reelected.
I'm not sure if I believe that people would, even if tax reform were to fail, that all of a sudden they're going to try to elect Democrats because they think that their economic condition would be better.
No, but I think what Steve Bannon is hoping is that they elect different kinds of Republicans. Because, the way Steve Bannon sees it, the Republican Party has to change. And there are ineffective people like Mitch McConnell in Washington, D.C., who are happy being complacent and making excuses like, Congress can't be put on a timeline with excessive expectations. But also, if you look at Mitch McConnell today, he looked like a hostage. Here's someone who's being attacked.
Hostage video.
Yeah, by Steve Bannon, who's going after him in as direct terms as you can possibly make. And, Bannon on Hannity and at the Values Voters Summit, he's naming Mitch McConnell and people who are in line with McConnell. They're the ones whose heads are on the chopping block. And, the president has been tweeting at the Senate Majority Leader, but then he's standing next to the president who's saying, no, we're best friends. This is great. And Mitch McConnell has to be very emotional and confused today, trying to figure out who are his friends, who are his enemies, who is he fighting against. But I think Lindsey Graham sort of brings it into focus. And the point is, don't be distracted by social media or operatives who are no longer in the White House. Do your job. Pass the bills. Do your work. Lead the Senate Republicans and get something done that's good for the economy and for voters who put you there.
Well, let's listen to what Steve Bannon said over the weekend, and then the Trump-McConnell soundbite, if you could put those together.
It's a season of war against a GOP establishment. We need to move with urgency. The President of the United States deserves respect and deserves their support. And you can come to a microphone, and you can say, I am not going to vote for Mitch McConnell for Majority Leader.
Steve's been a friend of mine for a long time. I like Steve a lot. Steve is doing what Steve thinks is the right thing. Some of the people that he may be looking at, I'm going to see if we talk him out of that, because frankly, they're great people.
My goal as the leader of the Republican Party in the Senate is to keep us in the majority. The way you do that is not complicated. You have to nominate people who can actually win, because winners make policy and losers go home. That's my approach. That's the way you keep a governing majority.
So, Jesse, I imagine that Mitch McConnell probably spent a lot of time during the lunch with President Trump explaining his position.
I'm not a big fan of Mitch McConnell, but I thought that statement by his was dead on. What does he say? Winners are in the Senate and losers, they go home? Exactly. What did he rattle off when he talked about all the losing candidates that the Republicans nominated for Senate back in the day? Sharon Angle, Todd Akin, some of these O'Donnell.
Yeah.
They're flamethrowers, and they burst onto the scene through the primaries by the help of the grassroots, and then they get shredded in the general, and then where's your Senate seat? Oops, the Democrats have it. So you don't want to cut your nose off to spite your face. I think that's what he's saying. He wants to stay in the majority. And I don't mind Bannon trying to primary guys. If you're going to primary people, maybe primary the people that sunk Obamacare repeal in
But that's not the case with Luther Strange in Alabama.
I know, and I understand that, and that's the fight that the Republicans are going to have to make, and I'm worried about them spending boatloads of dough on races and seats that don't really matter when there's competitive seats. As you know, there's a lot of Democratic seats exposed in 2018.
Right.
Republicans have an opportunity for a little wiggle room
Pick up
where
wins.
they could lose Rand Paul or
And save
lose
the
a
money
Ted
for the
Cruz.
generals.
Right, and still have that slim majority, 51 votes to get there. Right now, they don't have that opportunity.
So one of the things Bannon said over the weekend at the Voters Value Summit is, we're cutting off your oxygen, Mitch McConnell. And what he meant by that was, we're going after Republican donors who are not satisfied that the Republican Senate has not advanced the legislation. They're not particularly wed to Trump, although Bannon is, but they want progress. They want to see something from the Republican domination of the House and Senate. Well, the idea that you go to Mitch McConnell, who said today his job is to keep a Republican majority, and say, I'm cutting off your oxygen, boy, that's a existential threat.
But it'll be interesting to see if President Trump can bridge these two worlds and for how long he can do it. Can he keep the Bannons happy? Can he keep the McConnells happy so that he can keep his majority to try to get his agenda through? That's actually the toughest part, but that's
I think Bannon is going to run his game. He's been on the inside. He's made his list of who he thinks needs to go, and I think sadly, even if McConnell puts up these wins, I think he's going to probably try to take him and others out. And we've seen what happens when Bannon has an idea that isn't in accord with the president, i.e. Luther Strange. He's going to go his way.
Okay, well, we're going to keep talking about this throughout the week, I'm sure, but we're going to move on now because he deserted his platoon, he betrayed his country, but Bo Bergdahl blames President Trump for his admission of guilt today. Hear why from Bergdahl himself next.
3 years ago, President Obama celebrated his decision to swap 5 Islamic terrorists for a U.S. Army deserter. Today, Bo Bergdahl pleaded guilty to charges he endangered his comrades by abandoning his post. President Trump, like a lot of other Americans, was livid about the Bergdahl trade and expressed it frequently on the campaign trail.
I get tired of watching a Sergeant Bergdahl deal. We get Bergdahl, a traitor. They get 5 killers that they've wanted for years.
We get Sergeant Bergdahl, a dirty, rotten traitor. 6 people died going after him. 6 people died going after Sergeant Bergdahl. We get Bergdahl. Our president doesn't have a clue. He's a bad negotiator. He's the one that did Bergdahl. We get Bergdahl. They get 5 killer terrorists that everybody wanted over there.
Bergdahl's the traitor, but he blames President Trump for his guilty plea, claiming he would have never gotten a fair trial.
We may as well go back to kangaroo courts and lynch mobs that got what they wanted. The people who are to the point of saying, yeah, just shoot them, you can never convince those people to change their minds.
He also hit back at allegations he wanted to join the Taliban, calling the accusations insulting. Can you believe it? 3 years ago, Jesse, I remember covering this story so many nights. So now people are seeing, in fact, that justice was done. Justice was served, although the sentencing remains.
That's right. I mean, I'm glad we got Bergdahl back, but Obama lied about it and then blew the swap. Remember them, and it was Rice who said that he served with honor and distinction. That was a lie. And then we get one guy back for 5 Taliban commanders. It's kind of like the Iran deal. The president just got snookered. And where are these 5 Taliban commanders. We're supposed to be watching them. I don't even believe that's actually the case.
Well, you know they're all missing.
Yeah, they're all missing somewhere. They're probably back on the
No,
battlefield.
and we know that 3 of them tried to reconnect with the Taliban.
Yeah, so that sounds about right for an Obama deal. Apparently, ABC says 2 men were injured searching for Bergdahl. I've seen reports where up to 5 men died as a result of the search for Bergdahl. The father, remember the press conference with the long beard? He was speaking Arabic in the Rose Garden. That was weird. The platoon was very upset by this. Remember, they were on Megyn Kelly's show and said that this guy was not a hero. In fact, he converted to Islam, and he was not going out to tell a U.S. commander that the lack of discipline in his platoon was worrisome. That was a lie. They said he wanted to try to talk to the Taliban. That was probably a defense tactic for, PR reasons. But to be honest, when I went to Idaho and I investigated some of the neighbors and some of the friends, the guy's a naive kid. He's kind of a lost in the woods, pie in the sky dreamer. I don't think he had evil intentions, but I think what he did, he deserted, and I think he deserves justice.
All right, Kennedy said that he had tried like 12 to 15 times. He escaped, but he was put back in and kept in this like dark cave-like thing. I mean, where's justice here? Is it going to be in the form of an increased sentence? There are some that say, well, being held in a Taliban prison for 5 years should be justice enough, and having the felony convictions. What do you say?
No, I really, and I'm going to interview Judge Napolitano on my show tonight about this, and I agree with him. I wish there were a trial, because I think there are a lot of questions that remain, and questions around the circumstances of his desertion. And think about it. If you were accused of these horrific acts, and those acts leading to the death or injury of people that you served with, if you felt you were innocent, why would you cop a plea? And if you really felt that you were innocent, and there was so much writing on this verdict and so many powerful forces against you, why wouldn't you take that opportunity to stand up for yourself?
Right.
And that's why I don't buy his BS little interview, and I think he might have a screw loose. I think this guy might have been mentally unstable from the get-go. And, maybe he should have been weeded out of the process before, but unfortunately, with people like that, sometimes it's too late before you realize the full extent of their mental impairment. Having said that, though, I wish we had more answers, and I wish we knew what led to some of those statements by Susan Rice.
Yeah, well, I think the military certainly has some of them, but he had the opportunity to go for a trial, Dana. He opted to go in front of a military judge, take the plea, take his chances. Hopefully, he was thinking in the interest of getting a reduced sentence or something like that.
I'm imagining that that's probably what his lawyers recommended to him, and he probably trusted them. General Jack Keane earlier today on the Daily Briefing show, he talked about how the military had kind of screwed this up because they had not, that he could understand how when it got up to President Obama that the information was not complete. And so did they embellish? Possibly at the White House, but at this point, this whole episode has made it more difficult for the United States in negotiations to get hostages back from other hostile entities.
Yeah.
So there's a real consequences. Regardless of the justice, there are also just ongoing consequences for what happened.
All right, Jack Keane's the best. You should have him on every day.
I don't understand why conservatives take delight in beating up a member of the U.S. military, but so be it. But I must say that the military,
well, he's a convicted,
the military said
deserter.
itself
That's why.
that the top commanders recommended that there not be punishment for Bo Bergdahl. And then, of course, that was reversed, and now he's back in the trial situation. But remember, this is the military who said that. Secondly, what did we hear from Bergdahl? He was in a cage, held in a cage for 4 to 5 years, tried to escape twice, and by the military's own account, he was badly tortured, like the torture that people went through in terms of POWs during Vietnam. Now, Bergdahl says he was not deserting. He says he was going off to talk to a commander about the failures, lack of discipline inside his own platoon. That's what would have been interesting to hear at a trial. But this kind of presumptive, oh, he's a bad man, he's a traitor. You know what? I would say let the military talked about Bo Bergdahl. And what we've heard is less condemnation from the military than we've heard from conservative commentators who are looking to lash out at Bo Bergdahl. And I don't see why people are so leaping somehow like he's their, you know, he's their bad boy. You're going to just beat him up. I don't know.
Because he's, you know why? Because he's a criminal and he's a deserter, and he seriously caused people to be injured.
He is not a deserter.
Yes, it is. And let me tell you something.
That's what he says, Kimberly.
It's in the records from the court and in the pretrial rulings where the judge didn't allow him and his little whining butt to say, blame President Trump, I can't get a fair trial.
Did the President of the United States
and the judge,
say that he should be shot?
It was ruled inadmissible
No, he
in
was
court.
campaigning. He wasn't president.
And let me tell you something.
So he said the man that's now President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, said that Bo Bergdahl should be shot.
And the
Obama weighed in on so many cases. Trayvon, IRS, Fast and Furious. He did the exact same thing, except the difference,
the military?
Obama was president.
Okay, but Juan, let me ask you this. What about the 5 Taliban members who were exchanged for him? How many deaths will they be responsible for?
Oh, let me just say, when we send our men and women off to fight, we have an obligation to bring them home.
Unless they're in Benghazi.
Well, fine. I don't care where they are, but they're our people.
And he's
we
been
have
brought
a
home.
contract with our fighting people.
He's been brought home.
Very selective with rescuing people in danger.
All right, well, he's been brought home, and now he's going to serve justice and pay for what he did, and that's why the judge allowed all the evidence admissible about the people that were injured and hurt, including British soldiers, trying to look for this guy, deserter. Coming up, Jimmy Kimmel may have alienated Republican viewers with his show, and, well, simply he doesn't care. Hear from him next.
Jimmy Kimmel has lost a solid chunk of his audience with his frequent political rants on healthcare and gun control. But he doesn't regret turning off conservative viewers.
3 years ago, I was equally liked by Republicans and Democrats, and then Republican numbers went way down, like 30% or whatever. And, you know, as a talk show host, that's not ideal, but I would do it again in a heartbeat.
So you don't mind if Republicans turn off your show? They're not watching anymore?
I don't say I don't mind. I mean, I love for everyone. I want everyone with a television to watch the show. But if they're so turned off by my opinion on health care and gun violence, then I don't know. I probably won't want to have a conversation with them anyway.
Good riddance?
Well, not good riddance, but riddance.
Wow. Kimberly, I like Kimmel. I'm not going to badmouth him, but...
He used to be my favorite.
Yeah?
I'm breaking up with him.
I don't know. I mean, you don't want to be the Jameel Hill of late night and alienate half your audience. Does he run a risk of doing that?
Yeah, you know, I usually find him to be a person of good humor. And I just felt like it was sort of a little bit unsportsmanlike. You should be like, you know what? I let people have their opinions. We welcome everyone, you know, to express diversity of ideas and thoughts and jokes, and hope you give my show a chance. Something nice. I would have preferred.
That's right. And Juan, his ratings, I think he's currently 3rd. Fallon, I think, is 2, and Colbert has really rocketed to #1. Where does Jimmy Kimmel stand if he's going to be kind of to the left of center now?
Didn't hurt Colbert, did it?
Right.
Not at all. But does he have that market share?
I'm sorry?
Does Colbert own that left-wing market share?
I don't know. But, you know, I was just looking at the numbers, and he's up year over year from 15, 16, 17. He keeps getting bigger and bigger with the demographic, the 18 to 49-year-olds. So I don't think it's hurting him in that regard. What's interesting to me about this is you think about he speaks out on health care, and he speaks about it in a very emotive way, and then the critics, especially the conservative critics, say, oh, he's too emotional. He's not anything to do with substance. And then he speaks out about the gun control issue after Las Vegas, and they say, oh, he's too emotional, he's too emotional. We shouldn't be discussing it. This shouldn't be stuff that a late-night comedian has any input on. Well, then who? I mean, the conservatives just want people to shut up? I don't get it.
No, well, I think the point was that he was called the conscience of the nation when he spoke out on guns and health care. And then Weinstein came around and he said nothing and got hammered for that, you know, saying, where are you now, Jimmy? That was the criticism.
Right. So it's sort of like with Hillary Clinton. She was willing to speak out on all these issues and then waited several days because they're friends and they have the past relationships. So he took a risk in doing this. But, you know, it's interesting. Also, his boss, Bob Iger, told the New York Times, the show is to entertain. I think it should be careful. Sort of like a gentle, let's try to keep as much audience as we possibly can. But late night shows don't do poorly if they go after President Trump. I mean, That has actually been working for several of them.
That is a fact. Do you think he's just keeping it real and he doesn't mind taking the hit with the ratings?
No, I think he's in a bubble. And that's a problem, and he only wants to talk to people who agree with him. That's always a big deal. That's why Bob Iger is pushing back, because the country is a lot more than New York and L.A. And you also have to be funny. The thing about Colbert is he's better at satire. Remember, he did a show in character for years. Jimmy Kimmel isn't quite as adept. In Saturday Night Live, a lot is forgiven ideologically from conservatives if they actually laugh about stuff. The other problem is if you slap half of your audience, you got to be careful, because in this political environment, they may not come back to you.
Pendulum swing.
Yep, and you got to be funny. All right, coming up, Colin Kaepernick won't go away without a fight. He's now taking on the NFL. Up next.
Colin Kaepernick's been unemployed since March after leaving the 49ers following a season of political protest on the field. Now he's filed a grievance against the NFL owners, claiming they're colluding to keep him out of work. His lawyer, Mark Aragos, also suggests President Trump is to blame for the, quote, provocations. The filings demand an arbitration hearing on the matter. So, does Kaepernick have a case? We go to our football expert, Dana.
Oh, me? I thought you were going to go legal and football expert. Yes, Kimberly, go for it. I was just surprised when they said collusion, they didn't blame the Russians as well, because that's been going around. I just have to assume that if this guy was really good, he'd be on a team.
Well, that's not the case. He's good enough by everybody's measure to be a backup quarterback.
That's not what Jesse said.
He brought the 49ers down, a football dynasty dragged down to nothingness,
right? Is that what you're saying? About politics?
What?
About politics?
No, I'm just telling you, I don't think he was very good. He wasn't a closer. Right. He didn't put up wins. I think he had decent talent. I don't think he's a star. He's not like a Montana. He's not like, you know, a Steve Young. He's not a Peyton Manning. He's not even an Eli Manning. He's not a Roger Staubach. He's not, I don't know who he is. He's not a Phil Simms. He's not. I mean, I could go on and on.
He's not even Chelsea Manning.
There we go.
Oh my God.
According to all the measures, all the people who are football experts, he definitely should have a job as a backup or a starter now that people are getting injured in the NFL. I don't know.
He wants to be a starter.
That's what he said.
Here's the thing. In this country, and this is what I like about private enterprise, if you don't want to hire someone, you don't have to hire someone. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all the NFL owners are mean girls and they're talking behind your back. They see that fans aren't tuning into the games. Look at the LA Rams. They can't even get fans to go to their tiny interim stadium. They get a third of the people that go see UCLA and USC games. And this is an NFL franchise that the city has been begging for, and fans are just not engaged, and they're losing interest. And I think that's what the owners are paying attention to. It's not necessarily the president, because these Trump supporters came out after the president's comments that the owner should fire the SOB players, and they said, no. You don't tell us what to do. But then, you know, now, of course, they're meeting tomorrow to figure out what to do about the anthem protest.
Right.
But I think if Colin Kaepernick chews up that much oxygen and space in the conversation, you don't have any obligation to hire someone who's a so-so quarterback.
All right, so let's take a look at Hillary Clinton's take on Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, my God.
So you have to resist what are very clear, what we call dog whistles to that base. That's what the black athletes kneeling was about. That was not against our anthem or our flag. That was actually, kneeling is a reverent position. It was to demonstrate in a peaceful way against racism and injustice in our criminal system. I think it would be a grave error for Democrats to recede from those fights. And so therefore we have to stand up, fight back, resist.
All right, and to give you the full polarized flavor of this, here's Donald Trump today.
Plenty of time to do knees, and there's plenty of time to do lots of other things. But when you take a knee, well, that's why she lost the election. I mean, honestly, it's that thinking, that is the reason she lost the election. You're disrespecting our flag, and you're disrespecting our country. It is very disrespectful to our country when they take a knee during the national anthem, number one. Number two, the people of our country are very angry at the NFL. All you have to do is look at their ratings and look at their stadiums.
So, Jesse,
yes,
you see a totally polarized presentation. Oh, it's disrespect for the anthem and the flag versus, oh no, it's about the police brutality and treatment of blacks by the police according to Hillary Clinton.
Well, all I know is Hillary siding with the kneelers is the kiss of death. I mean, the woman is a day late, a dollar short, and how corny is she, too? Trump's
and how many electoral college votes?
Yeah, exactly. You know, who is she to lecture us on errors? I mean, we all know what happened, Hillary. So she's just the kiss of death for this thing. And going back to KG's point, this guy's talent does not outweigh the PR hit a team would take if you bring him on. He was 2-10 as a starter last year. I think he averaged only 187 yards in the air passing, under 60% completion rate. He's not that good. And the lawsuit is a Hail Mary. You like that one? There's no chance this thing goes through. It's not illegal to not hire someone you don't like.
Right.
And he's got to show all this evidence that there's collusion between multiple teams. I don't see it happening. It's going to go to arbitration, and these guys going to lose.
Well, if he wins, he wins big.
Well,
he does win big. Well, Garagos wins really big.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
He'll make last year's salary.
He'll find
Next
a way.
up, more bombshell developments in the Harvey Weinstein scandal. Right back with it.
Yay, Juan!
Metal. As the list of women accusing Harvey Weinstein grows, his own flesh and blood is publicly turning on him. And an explosive new interview, business partner and brother Bob Weinstein says Harvey, quote, took out the emptiness inside of him in so many sick and depraved ways, it's inexcusable. No bleeping way was I aware that that was the type of predator that he was. I divorced my brother 5 years ago. I'm ashamed that he is my brother, to be honest. Wow. Today, the Weinstein Company announced it is in negotiations to sell part or all of its assets to Colony Capital. Meanwhile, TMZ reporting the disgraced movie mogul is expected to challenge his firing at a board meeting tomorrow. So, Kimberly, what kind of case does Harvey Weinstein have against the company? What kind of agreement did they have about these suits? So many of them that he had paid out over the years.
He's actually in a better position than people think, right? They did the right thing for them, you know, from a public perspective and a PR perspective to say we've put him out, et cetera, right? Like the Academy did and like they did in Britain. However, they already had advance notice about this and let him put together in his contract that if any of these allegations would come forward, as long as he indemnified the company and made them whole from a financial perspective in terms of settlements or anything like that, that he was able to keep his job and retain it. Now, not being privy to all of their, you know, financial records and contracts and whatnot and previous incidents that they're aware of that they've documented, I think it's kind of fascinating. Maybe he'll be able to work out a settlement with them, something of that nature. But let's be honest, if he were to be involved and at the helm in any way, it is just like, you know, financial death spiral for the company. So their best bet is, I think, and they've been advised, I'm sure, to go ahead and sell off and, you know, get what they can now for the company, because they're really crippled going forward trying to do some business.
Yeah, and even Juan, his wife's company, Marquesa, is having a tough time PR-wise, and a number of staffers are circulating resumes reportedly trying to leave the company because of its association, and she's already said that she's left her husband. Right?
Yeah, so, and you get, I mean, it's very real what Kimberly's saying, because you have Disney, you have Apple, Amazon, all pulling away from projects. Lin-Manuel Miranda says that In the Heights apparently is owned by the company, wants out. So I think that it's at this point, the question is, can the company survive the damage? So he might go in there and say, oh, well, you guys knew something was going on, but from what the brother said, they had no idea of the extent of the predatory behavior, and now the PR damage is so substantial that it threatens the existence of the company.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if his legal trouble in some of these cases that Scotland Yard and the NYPD, in addition to other law enforcement agencies, are looking into. But comedically, Jesse, there has been an interesting reaction. It's either silence or comedians are having to apologize, like James Corden, who told this joke.
Right here in LA, it's so beautiful. Harvey Weinstein has already asked tonight up to his hotel to give him a massage. It has been weird this week though, hasn't it? Watching Harvey Weinstein in hot water. Ask any of the women who watched him take a bath. It's weird watching Harvey Weinstein in hot water.
Wow.
Yeah, Corden had to apologize.
It's like a
for
bad
that.
Hollywood script. They're already apologizing for rape jokes. The brother is saying, oh, I barely knew Harvey. I divorced my brother. I think they're getting a cash infusion from Wall Street. The Clinton Foundation, I think, is keeping $250,000 from Weinstein because allegedly Weinstein paid off some of Bill's legal fees during the Lewinsky affair. That was the allegation, so it's a mess. What's probably going to happen is Hollywood's going to make a movie about the Weinstein crime saga. Then everyone's going to get awards, and then they're going to congratulate themselves at the award show.
Who plays Harvey?
I don't know. I don't know if that might be a
Someone
tough
suggested
role.
Jon Favreau.
Really?
That he would be.
I don't know if he'd want that role.
I don't know, man.
Who knows? Could win an award.
Let's not have Jesse suggest.
I don't even know who Jon Favreau is, so.
Leave it there.
Swingers.
Oh, okay.
Dana, what do we do here?
We figure out a way to get through this segment. It is pretty amazing that the story lasts for 10 days. So I'm really curious about what happens in that board meeting tomorrow and how much of it leaks out. And
does he leave rehab in Arizona to go to the board meeting to
A
plead his case?
teleconference from sex
you get a
rehab.
pass.
It's like a rehab furlough.
Oh, he's gonna call in. He's going to call in.
Yeah.
He gets a lifeline.
Call a friend.
Phone a board.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Don't call your brother.
I don't think
well,
gonna
not
call
anymore.
a friend. No one's gonna pick up.
Okay.
It's very.
all I got.
It's lurid. It's tragic, and the story continues to grow. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Of course, one more thing. What's happening?
Got my first real six string, bought it at the 5 and dime.
It's time now for one more thing. See, this time I remembered it was my turn. And I am going to go first. So I have two quick things. Like, this is how Gutfeld does it. Tomorrow on the Daily Briefing, I have a very special guest. For those of you who watch The Five know I love Dierks Bentley and his music. He's going to be on tomorrow to talk about his involvement in the new movie, Only the Brave, about the firefighters that died in Arizona. Do you remember that? And then he was also in Vegas last week visiting victims. So he'll be here to talk about that. But now, my second topic. This is really great. We have a new producer on The Five named Deb Cody. She's actually been at Fox for a long time, but she's new to us at The Five, and we are so happy to be able to bring you this story. So it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and today we are highlighting her because she participated in her first breast cancer walk as a survivor over the weekend. She was diagnosed in October of 2015 with stage 2 invasive breast cancer. She underwent surgery, 5 months of chemotherapy, 6 weeks of daily radiation treatments, and a full year of antibody infusions. She finally finished treatment in March of this year, and over the weekend went home to Massachusetts to walk in the Making Strides American Cancer Society walk with her close family and friends. And of course, I think you just saw that was her dog, Nick. Her Making Strides team raised almost $10,000 for the American Cancer Society, and she hopes that those funds will help others diagnosed with breast cancer also survive. The one thing she asks of all of us women that are watching, don't pass up on getting your mammogram.
Absolutely.
So everybody make that pledge to each other, and
Yes.
I will do the same.
God bless.
February.
Very happy for
Yeah,
them.
sure.
True fighter, true warrior.
All right, Juan.
Well, there's a chill in the air, as you can tell. It's actually getting pretty cold here in New York. And soon we turn our clocks an hour back. And, of course, we're just 2 weeks away from Halloween. My neighborhood, I got to tell you, I think all American suburbs right now, it's spider webs, it's pumpkins out the kazoo. And then, of course,
painful.
you got ghosts hanging from the trees. It's beautiful. Anyway, so this means the costume stores are already doing big business. So as a public service from the Five, we want to show you a few cans for the most controversial Halloween costumes of 2017. There you have The Wall. Now, some people say that's actually the album can.
About Pink Floyd?
Yes, but actually...
Is that Jesse?
No, but it looks
is
like
the
it
wall,
could be
as I
Trump's
understand.
wall. So I don't know. But then, look at the second one. Sexy border control agent.
Oh, that's
Well, what do
KG
you
in
do?
that case.
Is that right? You're going down to the
If I'm
border,
the wall,
KG?
she's the agent.
All right. And then the final controversial one, Anne Frank. A lot of people think this is not cool, not appropriate, not to be made fun of, given Anne Frank's terrible story.
Who came up with
Anyway,
that one?
get ready for Halloween.
Wow.
Okay,
All
that
right.
was
Kimberly.
That was a little awkward. Thank goodness. This is a perfect segue. It's time for Kimberly's Royal News. Dun, 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 dun. Indeed. All right. So it's looking shiny, huh? I think sparkling from the Windex. All right. Take a look at this amazing video taken today of the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, dancing with Paddington Bear, of course, and delighting children on her return to royal duties after sadly suffering acute morning sickness. That does happen to her when she gives birth to royalty. She joined her husband, Prince William, and his brother, Prince Harry, at London's Paddington Station, where they met children from charities that they support. How cute is this.
That's pretty fun.
Right? It's just absolutely
Yeah, she's
adorable.
sweet.
So
She's
I
my
adore
favorite.
her, as you can see, but I'm disrespecting with the crown.
How excited are you for the return of the crown?
I got to tell you, I just love
December
it.
8th?
That's right.
Oh, I love that.
Can't wait.
You gotta watch it with Peter
Can't
because
wait.
he interrupts and tells you all the stuff you need to.
Dana put me onto it.
Jesse is next.
So Dana's been getting me into country music a little bit. It's starting to warm up a little bit. I'm kind of starting to feel it. Well, I like this new artist. Her name's Jillian Cardarelli. And she is a country music sensation. She was actually named Top 10 New Country Artists You Need to Know 2017 by Rolling Stone. And she's got this new single out. It's called Souvenirs. Take a listen. She is, and Jillian, I think, has joined us today. There she is, so you can grab the new song over at Apple Music or Spotify. Got a great beat to it. Is it approved by Dana?
I love it. I love it. And I think Travis Meadows was in that list too, right? I think so, yes. Okay, so I am paying attention to my
Wave
country
to
music.
everybody.
My world's expanding. I'm into country music
we're
now.
We're gonna get culture to him yet. Kennedy's listening to her earrings, so she better
I just
go
lost
next.
an earring. It's because I'm so excited about the pandas. 36 pandas born at the China Conservation Research Center in the Sichuan province.
I've been there,
Nice
Kennedy.
The most pandas they've ever seen in a year. 15 pairs of twins. They don't open their eyes until they're about 8 weeks old. They can't move around until they're 3 months.
Wow.
And they're cute, and they have to have some help from the zookeepers because they have a lot of inexperienced moms.
Oh my
Charles
God.
Krauthammer's watching because he loves the pandas.
I hope he's
Great
getting
story.
They're
All
beautiful.
right.
So they're bringing the pandas back.
Set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five because who would want to miss this? Special Report is up next.